Following a series of amplifying the Auditor-General report, the following are views and recommendations from the citizens of Zimbabwe for the issues we raised in the previous casts.
So as a citizen of Gweru and also looking at the issue to do with the General Auditor's report concerning Gweru City Council in terms of the unavailability of supporting documents concerning the issues of stands which were sold by the Gweru City Council, it leaves a lot to be desired, because remember, as citizens we demand accountability, transparency and security from the City Council, but when it fails to give us the requisite or the required information, then we start to understand or start to believe that maybe there's a lot of corruption that is taking place towards Gweru, because we demand to know what is going on, what is going to happen to the beneficiaries, what is going to happen to the people who bought stands from the local authority. So when such things start to happen, then we start to think that the authority is misfiring at some sort. So I hope that with the coming time and with various mechanisms, including the awareness from the media, we want the media to interrogate and publish such issues in their papers and radio, so that we understand what is taking place at the Gweru City Council, so that we understand the issue of land or the issue of stands, how it has an impact on people. People bought the stands. People bought these stands, they paid their monies, but right now we hear that they are unsupporting documents for such issues, so it becomes a cause for concern. So I believe that with all those mechanisms put in place, we advocate for the understanding of what is happening concerning the Gweru City Council. In terms of the workers that are at the Gweru City Council or the employees at Gweru City Council, I believe that those in top offices or those who have to do with the Department of Housing have a lot to do and have a lot to desire in terms of us understanding what has happened to such issues, because when workers or employees are not being accountable of such issues, then it means that the whole system is agreeing in terms of that, so they are all corrupt in some stances. So we need to understand, and those employees, I think they should relieve their duties if such a thing comes.
Today we'll be focusing on the findings of the Auditor-General's report, with a specific focus on one of the findings that talks about health and childcare, where we've got 11 health institutions in Zimbabwe which were visited by the Auditor-General, and they were said to have incurred expenditure that wasn't accounted for, expenditure amounting to $160,290. That wasn't fully supported by source documents like invoices, like requisitions and receipts or goods received, right? So in the practice of due diligence, these are things that are supposed to be there, and we're finding that as a country, if we're having a health system that is governed in a backyard kind of way, to say we are purchasing goods but we're not having documentation, that is very problematic, because already as a nation our health system is suffering, it's in shambles, and we can't afford to be losing that much money and not having explanations as to where they come from. So one of the things that I think is really needed in the practice of due diligence is also a specific focus that really details how omitting these things, how omitting these processes will be penalized. And in terms of penalties, we're even suggesting that the penalties, they need to be clear in such a way that when we're saying it shouldn't just be fines, rather, but it should be maybe a case to say the penalty will speak to the individuals and the institutions being audited, the institutions found wanting. They should be banned from ever practicing or having a job within the public sector ever again in their lives. I think disqualification could really work a lot in terms of recommendations.
Okay, so looking at the current context in Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe is characterized by bad roads, which normally leads to accidents, especially looking at the fact that we are now going to a rainy season. We no longer have potholes along the road or in the roads, but we have wells of water in the road where one can come and fill a 20-liter bucket. And then when looking at that, we find out that from the Auditor-General's report, Zinara, which is responsible for making the roads proper and making sure that everyone is protected, because each and every time when you meet the roadblock, they will tell you about being a health hazard on the road, yet the road itself is the health hazard. What's supposed to be paying for the roads to be done well, instead they were paying for their employees to get a hairdo. Imagine a hairdo. each and every time when we get employed, we don't necessarily expect our employees to pay for our headers, because we are working so that we can take care of ourselves through the money that we earn. But in this case, it's different, because Zenara is not necessarily not paying their employees. They are paying their employees, and also as a compliment, they are taking them to a salon where they can do their hair, which is even more exorbitant, and the money that they are using is very much exorbitant than the money that is needed by people just to refurbish a 3-kilometer road. So at the end of the day, what we realize is a situation whereby there is mismanagement of funds, and the only recommendation that I can give at this particular point in time is, I think they need to pay back the money. Because if you say that they're supposed to be taken to jail, no, they're supposed to be sentenced to imprisonment and all that, it's not enough, because it's not their sentence in prison that can refurbish the roads, but it's when they pay back the money and the road is refurbished. Because currently, when you try to follow up on issues of saying, why are you not preparing roads currently as we are going into the rainy season, which is more dangerous than any other time, because there is water on the roads and all that, they'll give you an excuse that we don't have enough money, Zenara doesn't have enough money. But then the money was spent a long time ago. I think whoever was responsible, whoever was in office, has to pay back the money so that they can assist in refurbishing the roads that they were supposed to work on in the first place.
When we're actually looking at the issue of the GMP, it's quite alarming. At the same time, it's quite saddening to note that there is so much misuse of funds. GMP was actually allocated, the unveiled money for them to use to construct pave ways, actually to pave whatever it was, the surfaces, to pave the surfaces. If we're doing the initial cost of everything, each was supposed to cost $72,000. That amounting to 2.8 million for the 39 that they've constructed. What then happened to the 3.7 million, that was left behind? What then happened to that money? They never constructed anything after that, which means the money disappeared within their coffers. That's one thing that we need to ask. At the same time, we need to send a team that will investigate. These are my recommendations now. We need to send a team that will investigate, and that team must have the findings within 1 month. And those that are found on the wrong side of the law, they must be arrested. And we need to start to investigate from the side of procurement up to the side of GMP, and also the companies that were involved in terms of the paperwork. And each and every person that was actually involved in those deals, they must be brought to book. They must be answerable to how the money was used. Honestly, you can't tell me to pave just to pave. Just paving, it costs 72,000. No, something must be wrong. And at the same time, these guys, they must answer to our calls. They must answer to our concerns. Money was misused and money disappeared within their coffers. They must be brought to book. Thank you so much.
It is important for us as citizens of Zimbabwe to understand the core value of the Auditor-General report. Stay in light and take action. #AccountabilityZW.